Welcome to Industry Insights with Route Consultant, your front row seat to the fast-moving world of logistics and beyond. Each week, we bring you game-changing insights, real-world strategies, and fresh perspectives to fuel smarter investments and build stronger businesses. Join us as we sit down with expert guests to explore emerging trends and pressing topics across a wide range of industries. This is Industry Insights. My name is Josh Gregory, and as always, I have Giovanna Terry here, Master of all things marketing at Route Consultant.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah, and then we have Andy Willis in the studio today. So Andy has over 20 years of experience owning and operating security businesses. So Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Perfect. So before we go too far into this, I said security. I feel like that's pretty broad. So could you just give kind of a brief overview of what the security industry is and kind of where you've had the most experience?
Wow, the security industry is extremely broad.
Yeah.
It starts all the way at the very bottom end, physical security, which is both people, it's technology. I mean, it's padlocks, as an example.
Right.
All the way up to, sophisticated electronic systems for data and access control and cameras and the full gambit. Even executive protection operations for high wealth individuals. I mean, we see it in our government all the time. All of those are in the security space, and even if you go over even into the military space, they have a whole operation called force protection. And it's to protect the warfighters. It's to protect the soldiers. Used to be called security police and MPs and all that.
Yeah.
They've really stepped up their game. Real high end guys, and a lot of those guys end up in the security space that's not military after they get out of the military. It's really a benefit to society.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty natural kind of progression.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is.
Is that your experience?
Yeah.
Somewhat, except I didn't do security operations in the military. I was an officer in the Air Force, but I did not do, that wasn't my gig. But before I went in the military, law enforcement law enforcement primarily was it. My first police job, I was a park ranger.
Oh, wow. What park?
Lake Ouachita State Park in Arkansas, in
Okay.
Hot Springs.
Oh, yeah, Hot
nice.
Springs.
Great place.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. All police officers should start as park rangers because it teaches you how to provide service, which is what law enforcement should be about and really is technically about providing service to the citizens. Right. So,
how young were you when you got into
I was
park
21.
ranger? Okay.
21.
Wow.
Did you have anybody in your family who'd done that, or how'd you decide? Okay.
It was the weirdest thing ever. It was, a buddy of mine in college said, "Hey man, they're interviewing for guys to go to the Park Ranger Academy. You want to go?" Yeah, sure. Had no, and it was very selective.
Yeah.
Which is also weird. Why would they pick me? But for whatever, God decided, hey, he's going.
Yeah.
So ended up graduating number one in that class, which was, in fact, my buddy and I both tied for that.
Was it
Tracy
okay?
King.
A tie, but who really won?
Right.
Technically, he probably beat me out by a little bit.
Okay, well, that was your chance to publicly defeat him without him being able to speak back.
Yeah. But really it was a great time. Learned a lot. And it really kind of set me on my path to this as a profession, because it really was an extraordinary experience in one summer.
Yeah,
Got a lot of different experiences. Now, this is back in the mid-1980s. Okay. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, marijuana was a big deal then. That was a bad...
Even in Hot Springs?
It was, they were growing it up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. And during my time as a park ranger, I got to work with the DEA eradicating some fields. So,
okay.
And I was labor.
Yeah.
I thought it was really important, but I was labor. I was, they gave me leather gloves and said, yeah, just go pull those out of the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And,
That's literally the eradication was just pulling the weeds.
Exactly right. Yeah. Big tall plants, pulled them up, and they went and burned them somewhere.
Yeah.
But because I did that and I didn't complain, they said, hey, end of the summer, I was going back to school. It was a seasonal job. Hey, you want to work for us in Memphis? And I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. Like, no. We'll do something different. So I got to work with them during college.
Okay.
So in Memphis.
Okay.
We'll leave it there. But then I went into Air Force ROTC and had to stop doing that, working with them. But when I graduated from the university, I got commissioned as an officer in the Air Force. My younger brother and I both together, standing beside each other.
That's fun.
Aw.
Both commissioned. Our dad was a Marine. He gave us our first salute. It was really
Wow.
cool.
Wow, that's special.
It really was. And then I had a year before I was going on active duty. So I had to do something. And I went to the Memphis Police Academy.
Wow. Okay.
You're just seizing every opportunity that
Let's
you
do it. So I graduated number one from the Memphis Police Academy.
Okay. So we on record, number one there. Yeah.
Number one, for sure. Yes.
Yes.
I was in the what they call the first regional training class at the Memphis Police Academy.
Okay.
And it was great. Now, in fairness to everybody that was in the class, I had just graduated with a degree in criminology. I already knew how to shoot really well.
Yeah.
I was in Air Force RTC, which forced me to be in really great physical shape.
Oh yeah.
And so it wasn't completely fair. There was one other guy there, a guy named David Tilner,
Okay.
who ended up being the chief of police at Collierville eventually.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he had just come out of the Marine Corps. That guy was fit like crazy. I could not beat him in the run. I tried.
I would say coming out of the Marine Corps,
he
that
was
should trump ROTC in terms of.
Oh, it was
Right.
incredible. And on the last run, I tried to beat him, and he teased me. He let me get a little ahead, and then he just blew by me like I was standing still. We got to the finish line. I'm over there puking, and he come over and patted me on the back. He goes, "That was a good try."
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that was a great experience. And so I worked for a little while, and then when I went on active duty, the director of the police department's training academy at that time said, "Hey, man, when you come off active duty, if you want to come back, we'd love for you to come back and work with us." And so eventually I did. I came back and went to work as a reserve police officer in their reserve bureau so that I could have a different career full time. And I'm still a reserve police officer to this day
In
for
Memphis?
Memphis.
Huh. What does that entail in terms of responsibilities?
So we work the equivalent of minimum 24 hours each month
Okay.
in either in a patrol car, as we call it putting the blue suit on and going and answering calls, or in some special whatever. There are a ton of special events that happen in all these cities. Nashville is no exception.
Yeah.
And the reserve bureaus really are a great adjunct part of the police department to handle a lot of that stuff because we can come in and work a big race, and it doesn't take needed cars off the street,
Right.
which works great for us because it's usually on the weekend or sometimes at night, that kind of thing. And so a lot of us do those in big festivals, the Memphis in May festival that happens every year, and the giant Grand Championship barbecue. I don't know if you've ever been to that, but
I have not been to the
they're
championship.
really cool.
Okay.
They're really
I've been there
cool.
for the ribs. Yeah,
Oh,
my wife's
right.
family's just outside of Memphis, so.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great time working those big festivals. But my experience going into the security business was when I came back it's just weird. I came off active duty, came back to Memphis, and said, well, okay, I need a job. What have I done? Well, I went to work for a hotel as their director of security. It was called the Adams Mark Hotel at the time in Memphis. Now it's round. It's a big round building. And I don't know if it's a Hyatt or a Hilton or something like that
One
now.
of those.
Yeah, one of those. But I was a director there. And I had done some expert witness work for a big law firm in Memphis. And AutoZone had just gone public. Their out-of-house counsel happened to be this big law firm that I had done this work for. And AutoZone said, hey, we've got to have a director of security. Actually, they called it corporate security manager is what they named the title. And they needed a guy, and they needed him fast. And so Birch Porter Johnson told Harry Goldsmith, the guy at AutoZone chief counsel, about me. And next thing you know, I'm down there interviewing, and it's supposed to be like a 45-minute interview. 4 hours later, they're offering me the job, and they said, but can you start like right now? This is really an emergency. The CEO's wife was about to give birth, and so we needed to stand up an executive protection detail.
Wow.
Which was the big deal. And so sorry about that. I reached out to some guys that I'd worked with, pulled them in.
Wow.
And we stood up this protection detail right away. Next thing you know, I'm building out the guard operation for the company. They were building new headquarters buildings downtown. So I'm hiring guards and training guards and teaching them this is what we're going to do. Even on construction sites where they were doing this. And then I'm a bit of a tech head. So I got into the tech space with a bunch of tech guys there to help equip cameras and access control and all that stuff in these new headquarter buildings. A movie company showed up in Memphis to film a movie. During that time, they wanted some space in one of our parking garages.
Okay.
Strangely, so the CEO of the company, a guy named Pitt Hyde, he told me, hey, they want to park down there. Go negotiate something good for AutoZone.
That is such a, like, the fact that he just sends you to negotiate a deal is.
Well, you know, we had lots of fallow space.
Yeah.
And
any deal was a good deal.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. He knew I would be nice to him, that I would treat him fairly. And you know, and he didn't want to really task that with anybody important, you know? And so, I went down there and, met a guy named Gary Byrne. And you can look him up. He's lots of movies you've seen, big movies. And met with him and said, hey, look, here's the deal. We got plenty of space. You guys can park here. Do something nice for AutoZone. Tell me what that's going to be, but let's figure out what you can do, maybe in your movie. And he said, okay, that's a fair deal. Well, they did. It was a movie with James Earl Jones and Robert Duvall.
Okay.
Two big actors.
Yeah.
It's called A Family Thing. It's an excellent movie.
Okay.
There's this scene in Chicago where this young African-American kid, he's real thin, great looking kid, comes out of this shop, this automotive shop where they're working on cars, to answer a question to Robert Duvall. And he's got this AutoZone shirt on. and for like 30 seconds, full frame, this really nice kid is giving him, I think it's directions to somewhere. And,
full frame ad though in a big movie.
It was it was a great win.
Yeah.
Just to use some space in a parking garage. That sounds like a great deal.
Space we weren't even moving,
right?
Using. So, that worked out really well. And so then Gary Byrne came back to me and said, we've hired and fired virtually every security company in Memphis. Can you help us? You know, you got all these guys. You think they'd be interested in working? I said, yeah, let me go see. I'll have to ask for permission first. And so I did. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. So my first security company was born right then. Completely illegal security company. I didn't know all this regulatory stuff you had to do.
When you say that, what do you mean? Like,
Well, there's regulatory. There are rules, licensing, and that sort of thing. Of course, I didn't know.
Which
Right.
makes sense. Yeah.
So you're just saying yes, and
Trying to solve a problem.
right,
Right?
You are the solution.
There it
but
was.
There's some legalities to that solution too.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, nobody got in any trouble, and there was no issue. These guys that worked on our team for AutoZone worked part-time in the evenings, overnight, that kind of thing at these sites, and did a great job. And then Gary said, as they were finishing, he said, "Hey, if you started a company, we're going to be back in about 6 months, and we'll use you again. But you need to probably have a company." And all
Yeah.
that. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Work out the finer details
That's
between
right.
now and then.
That's
Yeah.
right. And also at the same time, a friend of mine named Ronnie Gross, who was the director of security for a company called Leader Federal Bank, which became Union Planters Bank, which became Regions Bank. I think he's still at Regions. He said, "Hey, if you're going to do this, we really do need some guys at banks too." The next thing you know, because I was focusing on quality. And the next thing you know, I've got banks. I've got this company that nobody knows about anymore called Bell South Mobility.
Oh, I know
Now
Bell South.
AT&T.
Remember
Yeah.
Bell South?
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
now
dad
AT&T.
held on to his Bell South email address until like a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The
that's
Batman
cool.
building downtown used to be the Bell South building, but
It's
it
true.
was AT&T.
Before it was AT&T.
There you
It
go.
was. That's
Yeah.
how you know
Yeah.
a true Nashvilleian if they remember the Bell,
Bell
South,
South
building
building.
instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we did all the retail locations. Anyway, it grew really fast. I took care of all the regulatory, the insurance. There's just a whole lot of stuff that goes into it to make it right. And I'm all about trying to make sure that it's done right.
Yeah.
My wife says I'm the guy that kills a mosquito with a sledgehammer. So, I don't do anything a little okay. It's just got to be the best.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good sometimes, but
But it sounds like you got to where you are because you just said yes to things and you're like, I'm going to figure out how to do it if it's literally pulling weeds out of the ground or starting a security company. I mean, that
tell
goes
me
a
you were
long
bringing
way.
a psychiatrist here. That's a really
That's
accurate
what this couch is
statement.
for. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's a really accurate statement. I really did. I was and still am an adventurer, and I love the unknown and going in to try things to accomplish them that haven't been done. And solving problems. That's also a big. I like finding solutions. I've invented things and
Okay.
had some patents and that kind of thing because of problems that I saw. And I've chased a lot of crazy dreams. A lot in the security space. I've done a lot of good stuff in the security space. But anyway, so that company grew, and I bought some other companies. I bought some tech companies that were complementary, access control and CCTV. We had a huge client, FedEx, in Memphis. We did all their access control administration worldwide.
Wow.
So if there was an access control point in the Philippines to be programmed to work, our company did it.
How did you land that client?
I bought there was a company called Access Technologies, and they were being purchased by a public company. They were a wiring infrastructure company.
Okay.
They did IT wiring, right? They were being purchased by a public company, Pomeroy. I don't know if they even exist anymore. These things flip so many times. And the owner of the company, Greg something, can't remember his name. He sold me this little tiny security component of his company. Tiny for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were doing probably $150,000, maybe $200,000
Okay.
worth of business, but FedEx was their client.
Mm-hmm.
And I purchased the company for $50,000, which was a huge win for him because he was told to get rid of it.
Okay.
He had to spin it off in some way. He was just going to shut it down.
Yeah.
So I bought it and integrated it into our operations. I love people. I'm a relationship guy, and created some relationships with these guys that work there. Great. I mean, really brilliant young guys. And I threw out some really giant goals for them. Told them, I said, hey, here's what we need to do. We need to be at $350,000 in the next 3 months. They did it. I mean, they did it like it was nothing. And I said, okay, let's do 600,000 in the next 2 months. Again, I just kept throwing these goals out. They just kept hitting them to the point where that tech operation part of the company was doing $6 million a year in 18 months.
It's a pretty good investment off the 50,000.
Right.
It was phenomenal. Now, some of our big customers, I'm not going to name them, made us the bank. And so they would drag out payment. It's difficult. Now, I wasn't from a lot of money. I grew up a poor kid. And, you start stretching a guy like me out who's going after I'm going after all of it. I was spread pretty thin, so it was difficult. I ended up eventually selling that piece off, and in fact even selling the man security part, and then several years later, bought it back in a big roll up, with another guy in Memphis who asked me. He said, "Hey, let's go buy your old company back, and then make it big and all that." And so I bought 2 or 3 other companies, and then we bought that company back, and that company still exists today. I think it's called Central Defense Systems in Memphis, and a guy named Craig Weiss was the money guy, great guy, so that company is still there and cranking and doing a great job, then, so I did a whole bunch of stuff out of the country, worked out of the country a lot. Ended up, I went to Madagascar and did a thing over there.
Never met anyone who's been to Madagascar. So.
Yeah, it is not like the cartoon. It is not, I promise you.
There's no talking giraffe or anything?
No, and really, it's interesting. The whole top half of the country, they've deforested. It's terrible.
Wow.
There'd been a coup in 2009, which is what drove me there, because there was a broadcast facility there that we needed to try and make sure that it was going to be safe and that sort of thing. And it was up in a place called Mahajanga, Madagascar. It's in the top part of the country. Totally deforested. If you look at it from Google Earth, it's like leaching red soil out into the Indian Ocean. It's terrible.
Weird. Yeah.
I did travel to try and see lemurs. So I went to this lemur park. I think I saw one.
Oh.
Yeah, it's sad.
That is sad.
That is sad.
But if you've seen the movie, King Julian,
Yes.
who's the leader, right? I would say he's best described as a DJ.
Yeah.
Because remember, he says, "Now let's dance,"
Yeah.
right? So when they had the coup in 2009 in Madagascar, they put a DJ in as president. No exaggeration. Life imitates the movies.
Wow.
That's so weird.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's a fact.
Yeah, I believe that. It's too weird to make up, honestly.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
When I came back from Madagascar, and I'd been doing some work in D.C., a bunch of work in D.C. before going. This was a 24-day in and out in Madagascar. And when I came back, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to law school. I'd always wanted to go to law school. So I enrolled in law school. And I was, back then, the only way to do law school online was to do law school in California. Now, after COVID.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
places.
become a big thing.
Right.
So I enrolled. I was loving law school, did a year. And during that time, the CFO at a church in Memphis, Bellevue Baptist Church, reached out to me. He was a friend of mine. And he said, hey, we're looking for a guy to take it up a notch for us. Bellevue Baptist Church is this massive place, about 300 acres in this one campus, 1 million square feet under roof, a little more, I think. Wow. And so he introduced me to the guy that was over facilities and grounds, a guy named Kevin Haley, incredible human being, incredible guy. And he said, hey, you'd be working for him. We interviewed. And I said, yeah, this would be great. And so I decided, let's step away from doing anything with the government and other than still doing the police thing.
Yeah.
And went to work there, and we built out capabilities. We built out a huge security force. I focused on using law enforcement guys because, again, we wanted really high end. My concept, my idea was for this operation, because it's a very specific proprietary security operation. I tell people all the time, security organizations that work within an entity are there for one reason: to support the mission of the organization. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's really not another thing.
Right.
It's that. And that takes on all kinds of actions and shapes and that sort of thing. So we hired great guys, and I called it the base blue line. So hiring law enforcement guys, really great ones. And also creating this huge technology base because they had no cameras or anything like that. We built out a big, massive central station, which is security. We built a 10 gig network inside their facilities. At that time, nobody was building 10 gig networks. We could see it. We could see that it was coming. And so we did it. We said, we're not going to go with a 1 gig network. Let's do a 10. Cost a little bit more, but the bottom line is ultra capacity, and it future-proofed us. We hung a bunch of really high-end cameras all around and solved a lot of problems that they were experiencing. I got asked by the Colombian National Police to help them even while I was at Bellevue, and I took several trips down and worked with them. And then when COVID happened, it was churches weren't really meeting.
Right.
Everything was virtual. So downsizing happened. I took off and went to South America to work in residence for the Colombian National Police. Developed a whole bunch of stuff with them, programs and really cool like facial recognition stuff for identifying FARC rebels, which was very successful. We helped them figure out ways to appropriately track their weapons. Actually designed a system that used RFID and facial recognition in concert to ensure that the guy that was issued the pistol was in fact
the one using it,
the one that was supposed to have it. That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So had you worked in tech before? You said you were very into it. Is that something you just kind of fell into like everything else, or did you have some experience with that before?
Bizarre. My older brother is a phenomenal tech engineer up in DC, works in the intelligence world, doing all of their secure communication for the military and all that. And my younger brother had a degree in computer science. I had a liberal arts degree in criminology. But for some reason, I loved it. My older brother taught me a ton of stuff just by talking to him. And so somehow I just understood it. I really don't know how to answer the question, honestly.
Yeah.
I would be maybe in a meeting where a question would come up and I would know the answer and I would say, well, here's an answer.
Yeah.
And then I would just learn stuff. If I found something that was interesting, I would dig in and go learn it. My mother would tell you that if I can just hear about something, I'm going to remember it and I'm going to learn it,
Right.
which
It's a useful skill.
I guess. Yeah, because when I was in college, I didn't read much.
Just listened a lot, though,
I
right?
listened a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. My parents came to my college graduation because they really weren't sure if I was going to graduate.
They were double
think
checking.
he
Yeah.
is. We
He
think
told
he
us he'd be here,
Right.
but
Right, yeah.
Right.
To see it for themselves.
That's
But
right.
that just goes to show that you don't have to know everything before you jump into an industry. You can learn these things along the way.
Absolutely. That's right. That's a really great point. An individual that's curious and has the ability to apply some logic to the things that they do can do this, can learn it. Obviously the security business has, it's edgy sometimes because it requires, it imposes, I should say, limitations on
Right.
people, right? By design. I mean, we don't want people going into our computer systems and looking at our data.
Right.
We want to keep that secure. So we're telling people no all the time. You talk to these red group guys inside companies that are designed, their job is to keep people from hacking into their networks. And they do that by, trying to hack into their own network. Those
right.
are the guys that, in that part of security are doing things to, that's a very important part of security. They, they're keeping that part safe. By the same token, these security officers, who are either armed or unarmed, whatever their deal is, they're there as a measure of limitation. They're there to keep their organization, the people they work for, their client, from having to experience something that they don't want to experience
Right.
at the hands of somebody else. So anybody can do it that has that kind of desire to learn it. But you got to get after it.
Right.
all of the different types of businesses you've owned in this space and the different things it takes to really be successful that you've seen. But I think from a starting point, I'd like to kind of go over, we talked at the beginning of the different types of security industries and businesses. When you think about right now, the biggest kind of opportunity, the types of businesses that you see kind of new entrants being able to start, is it more on the physical personnel side or technology? Kind of where's the market right now?
So both of those markets are really good.
Okay.
The electronic side, we'll call it that,
Yeah.
because it's access control and cameras and even to a greater extent now, data protection and that kind of thing, is a huge opportunity and operation. The physical side with guards and vehicles and protection operations and even helicopters and all of the stuff that's involved in the physical side is every day there are new opportunities there. Unfortunately, in our society, not just in the United States, but the whole world, the need for that kind of protective operation is expanding.
Okay.
And, as the world gets crazier and more extreme, that's not going to slow down. It's going to increase.
Well, and I think that's fascinating, because I would assume, the way I would think about it, most people would be like, oh yeah, all of security now is just going to be technology. So to hear that, a lot of the opportunities on the physical guard side is I think really interesting and contrary to what a lot of people would think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So here's the reality associated with electronic security. Here's this little phrase I have. cameras, access control, facial recognition, stuff that monitors our data. That is what we call constant vigilance to create actionable intelligence. Now, nothing's going to happen with that information until a human being decides to do something. Yes, there are automated systems that do take action, but in the physical security space, if we have a building and we want to make sure that people don't come in, we're not going to electrify the doors to shock people or anything like that. Yeah, we're going to lock them. We're going to put access control on them. We're going to put some really great stuff in place, cameras and that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, if people want in, they're going to figure out a way to get in. And it takes a human being interacting with them to either remediate that, get them out, or to prevent it. As you all know, in this building right here, people can come and go in and out of the lobby all day long. They can tailgate into a elevator with somebody and ride to wherever they're going. If you want to prevent that, you got to put a guy down in the lobby that interfaces with people. Otherwise, you turn the building into Fort Knox, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We've got cameras, so we would know if somebody did it, but then what?
Well, and I think about a home
Right?
security system.
Yeah.
If there's an alarm going off in your home, okay. But if nobody shows up to do anything about it, then it's all for nothing. So you do have to have those people behind the system at all times.
That is exactly right. How many times have we all heard a car alarm going off forever in a parking lot? We don't even look around anymore.
No.
I remember when car alarms were kind of new, and a car alarm would go off and you'd like walk over to it and go, who's over here messing with this car? Now,
Who sat on their keys?
Yeah.
really, is
Yeah.
the
It's just the
question.
assumption,
well,
right?
it is now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And you're like, okay, well, whatever.
Somebody else will handle it.
Somebody else will handle that. And it takes human beings actually doing something. It provides the intelligence. Hey, something has happened over here. Somebody should respond. Right. So that's a great example, your home alarm and even a car alarm.
So what are these, how many guards are in, an average business? Like, what do these typically look like? What do these different size businesses look like?
Okay, so a contract security firm is what you're asking about.
Yeah.
Really is it is wide.
Okay.
There are a whole lot of very small companies.
What's very small?
10, 15, 20, 100 guys.
Okay.
That's a small
That's
company.
small? Okay.
And the reason that happens the way that happens is, and this isn't my phrase, somebody else did it, but a technician has an entrepreneurial twitch. So in this instance, maybe a police officer who, is retiring or he's getting out or whatever, or somebody says to him, hey man, I wish you had a security company who's a friend of his, to protect my business. And so an idea is hatched, and much like me, he, cranks up, I can put some guys at your business, no worries. And next thing you know, he's got this little illegal security operation going on. And he may even be a police officer, but he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
When somebody complains and an investigator shows up is when he finds out, I'm supposed to have some licenses for this. And then, unfortunately, by that time, a lot of times they've got 100 people working for them, right? And that means usually 100 families are attached to that business.
Right.
And are relying on him to do the right thing. So he learns, oh man, I've got this. So he's got insurance issues and that sort of thing. There's a general liability insurance requirement.
Okay.
Let's just talk about the state of Tennessee. That's an easy one.
Easy one.
State of Tennessee has the Department of Commerce and Insurance, and within it is the Private Protective Services Board. They have license requirements for firms, for the companies. They have license requirements for the people that run those companies. Those are independent of each other. There are insurance requirements in order to get those licenses. There's knowledge requirements. I mean, the guy that runs it, the qualifying agent or the qualifying manager, has to have a level of experience that the commissioner thinks is sufficient to properly run a company. Thank the Lord for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we want security companies to be run by competent individuals that know what to do. It's easy to keep people out, right? Mm. It's super important to not do stupid things to keep people out. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about making sure that the people we hire, aren't, looking to fight people and hurt people. And sometimes that happens. It's unavoidable sometimes. And it's bad. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. Mm-hmm. Nobody that's sane. And competent people that train people, that know how to lead men and women in this space are what we want in that. And so I'm thankful for the regulations. Mm-hmm. The regulations are here to protect Tennesseans, everybody. Yeah. And so you've got that kind of thing. And then when you get down to the actual guys, the men and women, guys is a generic, men and women that are doing the work, and a lot of great professionals in Tennessee. And then there are people that aren't, that are bad, but that's in every industry. Mm-hmm. There's licensing requirements for them. Even if they don't have a gun, even if they're just an unarmed security person, they must get a license. Mm-hmm. And they must be insured. And of course, then they must be insured by the owner, the work comp that's there to protect them. All of those things are, you don't think about them until you're responsible.
Until you own the business.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be the boss until they are.
Yep.
Right. But you said that there's a lot of illegal, security firms kind of popping up, but these people don't necessarily have to have the business experience or know anything about licensing. I mean, again, it just kind of sounds like something that you can learn along the way. Obviously, there are right and wrong ways to do it, and potential setbacks, but, you don't have to be this, savvy business professional person to then go and start. It seems like intention is pretty much everything in this space.
You're exactly right. And you don't have to be you don't have to have an MBA to do this. You need to be diligent. You need to be willing to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, in that part of the business, you need to be a person that's about relationship. At the heart of everything that's good is good relationship. And leading men and women in the right way is about, as General Jerry Boykin said to me, there's one rule of leadership. And I remember saying to him, there's a whole library of books out there about leadership. But he's right. He said, love your men and love them deeply, and they will love you back and follow you anywhere. Now, this is a guy that started Delta Force for the Army.
Wow.
And he's a Christian. He's just an incredible man. And when he told me that, I took that to heart, and I've done that ever since. Yeah. And he's right. It's about relationship, and leadership is about loving the people that work with you. Mm-hmm. And so if you can do that, then this is a great business for you. There are a whole lot of things to learn for sure. Mm-hmm. And education is a super important thing. I think for individuals that are going into this, being guided into it is a whole lot better way to do it than to just kind of fumble into it like I did. Right. I fell in all the mud holes. I know where they all are.
Yeah, found out the rules you were breaking a couple of years afterwards. Yeah. Yeah.
It was actually faster than that.
That's good. Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, tell a little bit, like, what does it actually look like to operate one of these? You know, we'll talk physical guards.
Yeah. So physical guards. So you set up shop, you hang your shield out on the wall there and you say it's ABC Security Company. And if you don't have anything going on, the first thing you're doing is, you're putting your feelers out for business.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling people, hey, I want to start this business. Hopefully you've already started that and you've got some interest. People saying to you, yeah, I would work with you because I know you and that sort of thing. And so now you're trying to find people and hiring people from within the security industry is usually a good way to start. I used to walk around with business cards in my pocket, looking at security guys and gals, women, and I'd watch them. I'd sit at a restaurant and I'd watch, and I'd just see how they did, or I'd sit downtown Memphis and watch. And see, how do they conduct themselves? How do they interact with people when they come up to them? If they see something going on there, how do they do that? Mm-hmm. And when I would see somebody really good, I'd walk over to them. I'd hand them a business card. And I'd say, hey, I've just been watching. You're incredible. You really know what you're doing. If you're ever interested in making a change, I would love to talk to you. And I would leave it at that.
Yeah.
You passed the field interview, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's right. And sometimes those people would say right then, so what do you mean by that? And I'd say, well, I have this company. Here's what we do. And we would really benefit from having a guy like you on our team. And if they said, okay, hey, I'd like to talk to you about it, I'd say, when are you available? Come over and sit down and talk to me. And I'd get to know them. Again, it's really about relationship. Getting to know somebody is sometimes difficult because we all have this face we put on at the beginning. We don't really know who this guy is. I've got to protect myself and that kind of thing. But you can, I think you can kind of wiggle through that if you let down your own barriers.
Right.
Show them that you're a human being, just like they are.
Right.
That, you've got issues in your household just like they do. For me, it's easy because my dad was an enlisted Marine. My mom was 15 when she married him. This is way, way before it was illegal. And we just grew up really poor. And so all the struggles that people go through financially and that sort of thing, I get it. And so I can relate.
Yeah.
I've had a huge wild ride, even in my successful years. I went bankrupt. I mean, I chased it right into the ground, but that's part of learning this, and if you know that and you can interact with people on their level and know wherever they are, then you can get them to let down their barriers and really show who they are. Once you've got that, if you think they're a good fit, then you do what you need to do to pull them in because you want quality people.
Right.
It's easy to get people to come put applications in. It's difficult to find the great ones in there. Not saying that all of them are great. There are people that work in your company that are just there to do the job, but that's okay. There's a place for them. There really is. There are lots of places where they're not customer facing.
Yeah.
And they're there to, look at trailers all night, make sure they don't walk off.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Somebody's got to. Yeah.
Right.
You're getting paid to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and in that, how much of your business is ad hoc versus contract base?
So you want all of it to be contract
Right.
based.
And how long is a normal contract in this space?
Usually those
too?
are 1 year.
Okay.
Usually. There are some rolling contracts. They'll do a 30-day contract that rolls. The evergreen clause that keeps pushing it out. Or even short-term stuff. So I have a friend of mine in Memphis that operates a good security company. In fact, part of my old company is embedded in his. Some of the people are still there working. Amazing. His name's Mitchell Copeland. It's Copeland Services. It's his company, and he will do little short-term like festivals, like the Art on the Bluff or something. I think it's called that in Memphis. It's a festival, and they love him, and they hire him every year, and he'll do a larger hiring of people that he knows to come in and help work that. And he works it himself. He works all the time himself. He's there.
Yeah.
And he's this big brute. When he worked for me, he was the general manager of my company. Every single time I went to see a potential client, I took him. I wanted them to see him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is what our guys look like.
Yeah.
You know?
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
You want this guy standing on your wall,
Yeah.
protecting your business.
Oh, that's awesome.
So 1 year contracts are really, kind of what you're looking for, and you want that evergreen clause in there if possible. There's a whole lot of stuff in the contract. I've got boilerplate contracts that I've built.
Yeah.
And those things are super important. Again, I've fallen in so many mud holes.
Handshake deals.
Well, one of the things that happens is you'll go to a company, will call you up. They'll negotiate with you. Hey, yeah, we want to do this. Can we do a 3-month trial? Yeah, sure. We'll do a 3-month trial. Next thing you know, they're trying to take all your people.
Yeah.
And that's just, the nature of this kind of business. So the way you avoid that is you build it into your contract.
Right.
If you even solicit our people, there is a penalty.
Right.
Okay.
And when they sign off on that, it's certainly enforceable. And the courts are good to support that kind of
Solicitation. Yeah.
Courts will not, if I say to a guy, hey, you're going to have to sign a contract saying you're working with me and nobody else, and then he leaves to go to work for courts aren't going to tell him he can't work for somebody else.
Right.
Especially in Tennessee. It's and that's good. No,
Right.
we shouldn't be trying to do that to individuals. Individuals need to be highly mobile to go wherever they are happy and fulfilled for their life situation. If they're not happy, you don't want them there.
Right.
You want them to be where they're happy. You want to root them, cheer for them. But those clients that you hired, that they hire you, you want them to comply. You're going to give them something, and it's an exchange. You're going to give them a high quality service, and in return, you want them to leave those high quality guys alone because, that's our product.
Well, and you're providing protection to them, so they owe it to you to also protect, you have to protect your business as well. So there's that. It's not mutually exclusive.
That's exactly right. That's a very well said thing. I'm going to have to steal that. We're protecting you and
So protect us. Yeah.
protect us. That's very good.
Yes.
I am going to steal that.
Go for it. It's not trademarked or anything
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
I'll give you credit.
How profitable do you generally see these types of businesses being?
Okay, so that's a great question. And there's a variable answer to that, of course.
Always it depends. I understand that.
It
Yeah.
depends. Here's something that's important about this business. There is a necessary critical mass. And here's why. Because, as I said earlier, the regulatory requires general liability insurance.
Yeah.
It requires work comp insurance. Now, the work comp is a variable piece that is only associated with work produced, right? That's easy. But that GL, they are all big.
It's expensive. Yeah.
And if you don't have enough business to offset that, you're in the hole. And so there are all kind of ideas about what the critical mass is. To say that you've got a really successful company, most people say you need to have 10,000 billable hours a week. Now, again, that's not hard and fast, and it depends. if your bill rate is really high, or
Yeah.
if you're in a niche where you're doing executive protection work, where your bill rate is really high, then there's an offset there that makes sense. The really high-end military style protective operations, that billable hour thing does not necessarily apply. But if you are in a business, let's just say 10,000 billable hours a week, and let's just say that your overtime is all in order and in line, and you're not at the bottom of the barrel bill wise, your rate. You can expect a 20% margin.
Okay.
That's kind of a median number for a good business. It is a target number that should be, that's what you're shooting for.
Yep.
And you can see higher. Takes a really great operator to get it higher, but you can.
Okay.
And you can, depending, again, it's all depending. You can see 5 to 7% above that, and that's substantial.
Yeah.
And
I'd imagine poor operators can go the other way as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, I've been there. I've been a bad operator. And you can lose your shirt.
Yeah.
You go into something kind of half-cocked, and you're not, you really don't know what you're doing, but you think you do. And next thing you know, you're upside down, and you're asking somebody to help you make payroll.
Yeah.
What will happen a lot of times in this industry is people will forego paying their taxes, their payroll taxes.
And hope that doesn't come back.
And it does.
And it does.
It always does. And when that happens, and within this industry, that happens not infrequently. I'm not going to say frequently, but not infrequently. And, a lot of times, again, they'll start like I did. Started right away. I didn't know. I just, we got $15. I paid 10. I don't know what the numbers were, but, and I kept the spread, right? No, I didn't take any taxes out or anything in the beginning. I ended up paying that later, but because you don't know.
Yeah. There's just a lot of things when you're operating a small business in any industry that you can get wrong if you go in blind.
That's right.
And and most people, when they start, if they don't have anybody helping them, do make those mistakes. And that's how you learn. Or you have somebody who's done it before.
That's exactly
help
right.
you out. Yeah.
If you're not an MBA, which a lot of people are not,
Yeah.
you're just a technician with an entrepreneurial twitch, like a police officer. All of his buddies are saying, you're going to start a security company, right? Now I'm going to come work for you.
Yeah.
Those guys a lot of times get in trouble that way. So guiding people into this business is really important. And if you do that and you do it right, man, it is such a great thing because they can start off the right way and they can become profitable really quickly. If somebody were trying to go into this business, I like the concept of roll-ups. Roll-ups are where you're going out and you're finding these little bitty small companies and these poor guys that have had them for a couple of years and they are scared to death every single day. I know, I was there. How am I going to make payroll this week? How am I paying the insurance? How am I paying the work comp? How am I paying those dreaded payroll taxes? Those are the guys that when you approach them, they are so excited that somebody is interested, and it validates them too.
Right.
Yeah.
They feel like, I must be doing something right. They're interested in and they are usually. And it's really a great thing to do for them too. Roll-ups, a lot of times will end up allowing these people to stay working in that business for some period of time, in either an actual operational facet or in some kind of an earn out where you're, taking care of them for a period of time.
And many of those small guys probably aren't at the critical mass you're talking about.
They're
so
not.
You add a couple of them together, you're there, and suddenly you've got
Exactly
a
right.
bunch of pieces that are significantly greater together than they were apart.
That's exactly right. The idea is that you line up 6 of those little ones and you close on the same day for all of them. And you keep them under one umbrella that you've created ahead of time that's going to operate them. You know, their companies may need to operate under this umbrella for some period of time in order to gain some tax advantages that exist within their company that they don't even know exist.
Right.
Which is really, really great for Rollups. It allows new owners, sometimes, let's say they're a sub-S corporation and they've got some tax loss carry forward. And as long as that company stays operational for the next period of time, that new owner can take advantage of that tax loss to offset some profitability from even another entity that's within. Because the bottom line is, in closely held companies, a lot of this stuff rolls right down to that individual owner. It hits his bottom line. And if he can pull some tax loss carry forward out of this one and offset this really profitable one over here, he wins.
Yeah.
And so we look at that too when we're trying to do roll-ups. Roll-ups are a great way to put a new operator, a qualified guy, a guy that is willing to work with you and understands he needs to learn. It's a great way to put him in business and have him profitable really quickly if he follows the formula. Doesn't mean that he's not going to have some setbacks. It doesn't mean he's going to keep all of his customers. But if he does it right, any customers he loses usually come back. And if he's doing it right and he's got critical mass, it allows other potential clients to see him. And now he's really gaining a lot more business. After that critical mass, it's like this snowball. It's coming down. And it's, as long as, you treat that snowball right, it's going to just keep getting bigger and bigger. And it can create a really, really nice lifestyle for somebody. But they got to do it right.
Perfect. Well, I think that's kind of the full journey we've gone through here of, how you got into the space, all of your different pieces and what it looks like to operate it. So Andy, the last question I always have for our guests, what is your favorite either show or book or movie that you're watching or reading right now as a recommendation for anybody listening?
Oh, wow. Right now I'm doing Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, he did a follow-up.
Oh.
I didn't even know.
Apparently just came out.
Okay.
I've done all the Malcolm. I've got autographed copies of his books.
Love
Malcolm Gladwell.
Love that guy.
So is it just like a retrospective on what he talked about there? Okay.
Looking back and him talking about a lot of the mistakes.
Yeah. Things that.
Really smart.
That's cool.
Kind of book because it's over 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. How long? Yeah, it did come out a while ago now. Yeah. Okay.
So I've just started it. I've gotten into it. I'm in like the second chapter. Excellent read.
He's always a good read, though. It's always he just writes well. It's entertaining, and you learn a lot.
Wrong.
Yeah,
and he's humble.
Yeah,
I love that about him.
Yeah.
I say he's humble. I don't know if he's humble.
he makes me think he is, right?
He seems humble when he's talking about this stuff, and especially as he's reflecting on himself in these younger shoes, and he's thinking, what were you thinking some of the time? One of the funny things he says is, if you remember him from back then and remember what he looked like, he said, and since then, I've gotten a haircut.
Oh, okay. That's all I was thinking about when you were trying to picture him. That's funny.
Yeah. So that's a good book.
Awesome.
Revenge of the Tipping Point.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's my pleasure.
And for everybody watching, we'll see you next time. Thanks.